Hello there, welcome back to Strawberry Ink, where we dive into the darkest, most intriguing true crime stories you've never heard the full truth about. Today, we unravel one of America's most chilling unsolved cases, the Zodiac Killer. And I want to mention that I will be discussing a cold case today. There have been numerous suspects who have been named with this case but have never been officially tied. And it is still unknown who really was a suspect in the Zodiac killings. Before late 1968 and late 1969, Northern California became the hunting ground for a cold-blooded killer who would forever mark annals of crime history. A killer who taunted police and the public alike, like cryptic letters, ciphers, and murders that gripped a region of fear. But who was a Zodiac Killer? What happened to his victims? And could justice ever truly be served? Our story begins in December 1968 with David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. The couple was found shot to death inside a car on a remote road of Benicia, California. Identified at the Solano County Coroner's Office, their deaths were ruled murder by gunshot. David's visitation and mass were held on December 23rd, 1968, a day before Christmas Eve, at the First Presbyterian Church in Vallejo, followed by cremation at Tuluque Cemetery's funeral home in Napa. Betty Lou's family held a private visitation and committal on December 28th, right before New Year's Eve, at the Skyview Memorial Lawn in Vallejo, where she was buried. Then on July 4th, 1969, a day of celebration shattered by violence, Michael Magew and Darlene Ferrin were shot multiple times at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Darlene tragically died and was taken to the Solano County Coroner's Office. Michael survived, receiving treatment at the Kaiser Foundation Hospital in Vallejo, and was released weeks later. Darlene's family held a private visitation and committal on July 19th, 1969, at Evergreen Mortuary in San Francisco, where she was cremated. On September 27th, 1969, at Lake Berryessa, Ryan Hardell and Cecilia Shepard were brutally stabbed. Both rushed to the Kaiser Foundation Hospital. Brian survived the attack. Cecilia succumbed to her injuries days later. Cecilia's visitation and committal were held on October 26, right before Halloween in 1969, at Morrison Funeral Chapel in St. Helena. She was buried at the St. Helena Public Cemetery. On October 11th, 1969, Paul Stein, a San Francisco taxi driver, became the Zodiac's last confirmed victim. Found shot in his cab, he was identified at the San Francisco County Medical Examiner's Office. Paul's visitation and committal were held on October 25th at the Roast Funeral Home in San Francisco, where he was cremated. What made the Zodiac Killer so terrifying was not just his murders, it was his brazen, taunting letters to the press and police. Using ciphers, cryptograms, and codes, he challenged authorities and the public to catch him. Some of these ciphers remain unsolved to this day. His cryptic messages hinted at more victims and threats of future violence. The public was gripped by fear and fascination. Despite numerous investigations, the Zodiac Killer was never conclusively identified or caught, but several suspects have emerged over the decades. Arthur Leigh Allen, often considered the prime suspect. Allen was convicted of molesting kids with suspicious behavior and circumstantial evidence linking him to the crimes. However, DNA tests have failed to confirm a connection. Richard Gaikowski, a journalist of a troubled past, was suspected due to linguistic similarities in Zodiac letters and his presence in the region at the time. Lawrence Kane, who had violent tendencies and a history of stalking women. Some investigators found parallels between Kane's profile and the Zodiac's behavior. Other theories suggest multiple killers or copycats, given inconsistent MO and timeline gaps were involved. Despite advances in forensic science, including DNA testing, the case remains officially unsolved, keeping the Zodiac Killer a specter haunting American true crime. The last victims of the Zodiac Killer deserve to be remembered beyond the headlines and horror. Their families sought closure, honoring their memories of funerals and memorials, and the communities continue to feel the echoes of that terror. David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Cecilia Shepard, and Paul Stein were more than victims. They were people with stories, hopes, and lives cut tragically short. The Zodiac Killer left behind chilling clues, but no answers. A legacy of fear, unanswered questions, and the relentless pursuit of justice that continues today. Thank you for joining me on this journey through one of the most baffling serial killer cases in history. If you want to hear more about suspects, theories, or even the unsolved ciphers, let me know. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. Have a good rest of your day.